last night I watched the Black Gestapo, another Blaxploitation that I wanted to give my thoughts on. Am I slowly becoming a Blaxploitation review reaction channel? Nah, I just think that the last one that I talked about, Abar, the first Black Superman, and this one, the Black Gestapo, two movies I had never seen, never heard of, they just really caught my attention. This one really caught my attention because I was looking through pictures of Abar for that video and I randomly came across this poster. It pulled me in. It's intriguing. There was a lot going on with this movie. There was a lot going on with this movie. Hopefully, people have talked about this movie before, or maybe this is one of these movies that has been kind of pushed into the zeitgeist or out of the zeitgeist, depending on how you see it. This was a movie, interesting movie. Just from the poster alone, very interesting. And it's interesting to discover these movies for myself. Movies that I've never heard of, never seen, and just seeing the concept from the poster and then seeing how the movie plays out is just so interesting to me. And I think that's why the Black Gestapo kind of drew me in. And then when I watched it, yeah, I'll talk about that. I will talk about that. But yeah, I think these movies are interesting, and it's interesting to discover these movies for yourself. Even if people have already talked about them, people aren't talking about them. The movie stars Rod Perry and Charles P. Robinson as two of the main characters, two of the generals of these different factions. Originally one faction, and then some things happen and they separate. They become two different factions. But it stars Charles P. Robinson, who was also, I'm in a bind, Nate, one of the great characters, one of the great lines in Black cinema. Just one of the great moments, really, in Black cinema. Charles P. Robinson, late, great Charles P. Robinson. The movie was directed by Lee Frost. And this is, like, one of my slight gripes about this movie. And this is not to say white men can't direct Black-themed, Black-oriented Black cinema. They can. White directors directed the first two Blade movies, and they turned out great. They turned out influential. Lee Frost, and I don't know if this was his directing, his choice, his decision. He wrote the story with somebody else. So partially this was his idea. Yeah, he created some of the gripes. I will say, there is another Lee Frost movie that I think I'm going to check out. The Thing with Two Heads, directed by Lee Frost. I'm going to have to find this one on YouTube to check it out. It says this is the first Blaxploitation, Black cinema sci-fi movie. Abar said that it was the first Black sci-fi movie, so who knows? This one did come out first. But yeah, just the poster, the tagline, I'm going to have to check this one out. See what Lee Frost brought to this one and see what's going on. Getting back to the Black Gestapo. The basic premise of the Black Gestapo is there is the People's Faction Army in Watts. And Watts is corrupt. There's gambling, there's prostitution, there's pimping, there's drugs, there's violence. There's all these things that are happening in Watts. They're being controlled by a certain group of people, and the People's Faction Army is trying to clean up this place, make it safer. Another key thing is that they're getting grants from the government. So the government is giving the People's Faction Army grants. And there's these there's a general and a lieutenant. The movie goes off of the fraction between these two people. One of my biggest thoughts and one of my biggest gripes about this movie, and maybe this is truth, but it's a gripe of mine because I didn't like the way that it was portrayed. It's basically, it takes these two ideals. There is, you either are corrupted by the power of a movement or you become stagnant in the power of a movement. So there are these two sides, and these two sides begin to clash with each other. The one lieutenant wants more power and wants to do things quicker, and the other, the general, is trying to do things in the right way. So even as Charles P. Robinson's character is attempting to clean things up, he becomes corrupted. And the things that he is attempting to clean up, he becomes involved in those things. He begins to control those things. So it's kind of like a dictator. A dictator will tell you that some things need to change, things need to be better, things need to be different. And then they'll come in and those same things, introduce them back. They'll just introduce them back into the system in a different way. And that's what Charles P. Robinson's character did. He became based on the title alone, he became that. He became a bad guy. I've said before, I think we need more good Black villains. I think he was a stereotypical prototype, run-of-the-mill Black villain, And there could have been things that were done better. I don't know. I don't know. I personally didn't like this movie that much, but I'm not going to say it was a bad movie. Another message in this movie might be as the higher that black men climb the power ladder, white women will always be there. I don't know. I don't know if that's what he was trying to say, but there's some scenes and there's some things that people say that, yeah. Honestly, I didn't like this movie. It wasn't as interesting as it could have been. I don't think they pushed boundaries as much as they could have. I think it was a run-of-the-mill blaxploitation movie, and there are some things that they could have done better. I'm not gonna say it was horrible, it was a bad movie, but me personally, I just didn't really like this movie that much. I think it's a movie that everybody should check out, because again, I do think it's an interesting concept, that clash between gaining power in a movement and being corrupted by that power and staying stagnant in a movement. The part about the government giving the People's Faction Army a grant, a $10,000 grant, which is probably in the 70s was a lot, is an interesting concept. So there's a lot of different interesting concepts. It's kind of that concept of if we do it on our own, we become corrupt. If we don't do it on our own and we keep taking the hands out, we just stay stagnant. Interesting movie. I think everybody should check it out. If you do check it out, let me know what you think. If you've seen this movie, what are your thoughts on it? Let me know.